Hello and welcome. We're excited to introduce you to the Reading-Tiered Fidelity Inventory tool, otherwise referred to as the R-TFI. It is our hope that you will become familiar with this tool, the ways in which the R-TFI can be utilized in a school system, and how to move forward with improving the health of your reading instruction. The R-TFI can be used as part of systemic school improvement and can be used to evaluate systems-level literacy implementation plans. Let's start by thinking about a common question that is asked by school leadership teams. How well is the MTSS framework for reading being implemented? As a school leadership team, we want to obtain an accurate picture of reality related to how the tiered system of support is functioning in identifying instructional needs, delivering instruction matched to student need, determining student response to instruction and intervention, and collecting and analyzing data to monitor student response and progress. The R-TFI can assist a school team in answering these questions and making systems-level improvements. There are several purposes for administering the Reading-Tiered Fidelity Inventory tool. The R-TFI is used to assess levels of implementation of the reading components of an MTSS framework. The tool will allow for a system to establish a baseline of current levels of implementation for literacy at Tier 1. The R-TFI can assist in prioritizing areas of action planning that is based on strengths and needs at either the district or school level. The R-TFI assists with examining growth of a system over time. Utilizing the R-TFI will improve the MTSS framework within a school, including supporting the appropriate allocation of resources. When you consider these statements, we can see that the R-TFI is designed to closely examine the system currently in place, identify those areas that are well articulate, and other areas that may be missed opportunities. Then pivot our attention to action planning to improve those missed opportunities and replicate those well-articulated features. We want to caution that this tool is not intended to offer a comprehensive assessment of a school's reading curriculum. The results are for planning supports and allocating resources, never to be used for punitive purposes. We want to share a little history of the tool with you. The Reading-Tiered Fidelity Inventory tool comes from the Michigan MTSS Technical Assistance Center. This group was seeking a tool that included a scoring guide, was written for elementary and secondary grades, and could be validated. Between the years 2015 through 2021, the R-TFI was released. During those years, schools were using the tools. The Michigan MTSS Technical Assistance Center was gathering data, testing the validity of the tool, receiving feedback, and making any necessary revisions. We feel confident sharing this tool as a valuable addition to your school leadership team because of the rigorous nature of the design, development, and validity process that it has undergone. The tool is divided into two sections. The first section is centered around universal Tier 1 practices. The second section is centered around the advanced tiers, Tiers 2 and 3. Because these two sections can be completed separately or in combination, the school leadership team would determine where they intend to focus their work, at the Tier 1 or advanced tiers level. The Tier 1 portion of the R-TFI is green, and the advanced tiers portion is in red. This distinction can help the team feel confident they are considering the correct tier or tiers when discussing each question or statement. The intent is to administer the R-TFI initially as a baseline, to ascertain the current implementation efforts of the Reading MTSS framework. The recommendation is to administer the tool at least once per school year, typically to be done in the spring. Completing the R-TFI typically takes 1 to 2 hours. However, please note that that first time a team administers, it may take a little longer as we navigate a new tool. Let's dig into the Reading-Tiered Fidelity Inventory tool itself. There are 2 versions, elementary and secondary. While the critical MTSS components are the same, the framework looks slightly different in elementary and secondary. To help schools determine which of the tools to use based on the grade levels provided in a school, we have this chart to offer some guidance. On the left column, there are some grade level bands, and on the right column offers the suggested tool, elementary or secondary. The QR codes on the screen will take you to the 2 different versions of the R-TFI. There are also tiny URL links to use for your ease. Please take a moment to review the chart, decide which tool is best to review, grab that QR code or the link so that you can access the R-TFI as we continue to go through this opportunity. Once a leadership team has determined which is the best tool to use, the elementary or secondary R-TFI, the goal is to gather a team. The suggested team members, due to their knowledge and decision-making ability, include district administrator, building administrator, general education teacher, reading specialist, special education teacher, school psychologist, and other multidisciplinary team members who are knowledgeable of the school or district's MTSS framework. To help the administration of the R-TFI along and to ensure a productive environment, there are roles these team members play. The intent is to have a facilitator, someone who can lead the discussion. It is best to have a facilitator who is not directly associated with the school team, an outside participant. The facilitator on the team serves as an impartial lead. This could be a person from your local patent office or IU. Group note taker captures the scores and notes related to the discussion. The remaining team members are respondents, those sharing responses. The R-TFI contains a series of questions, again, based on the section a school team is completing about Tier 1 practices and/or those advanced tiers practices. The questions or statements are posed by the facilitator. The team members individually, without group discussion, consider what evidence and vote based on how fully that component is in place. The voting is based on a 3-point scale, 0 being not in place, 1 partially in place, or 2 fully in place. Voting can be done either by using fingers to demonstrate a respondent or team member's vote, using a fist, 1 or 2 fingers, or response cards can be used. The goal of scoring the R-TFI is to find consensus. While voting, it is possible that team members are not in agreement. In the event of discrepancies, there are several steps to take. Team members discuss the available evidence to justify a score. The facilitator can ask specific questions of team members to share their rationale. The facilitator has an important role to ensure all voices are heard by not asking the same team members for their rationale. Following the discussion, the facilitator poses the question or statement again. Team members consider the evidence and rationales discussed and vote again. If consensus cannot be reached, the facilitator will encourage further discussion. It is acceptable for team members to abstain from voting if they do not have sufficient understanding of work efforts being asked in that question or statement. This is a good time to look at the Reading-Tiered Fidelity Inventory tool itself. We will look at the elementary level. The document's organization are essentially the same. It is the questions posed that are different. So looking at one version versus the other for today's purposes is just fine. Here you will see a sample of what those statements or questions were posing to the team. Each item number is listed in the left column, and then the statement or description is listed there in the chart. These are the statements that the facilitator will pose to the team. Again, the team, without discussion, considers what evidence they may have to justify a scoring, and then elect to either choose 0, 1, or 2 for how fully implemented or not implemented any of these components are. We shared earlier that the assessment tool is divided into green and red for universal Tier 1 practices, as well as those advanced tiers. Previously, you saw those green components for Tier 1 practices. This is simply what those red components, the advanced tiers, Tiers 2 and 3, look like. It's the same setup no matter the tier or tiers you're looking at. Item numbers on the left, statements or descriptions on the chart for the facilitator to pose, for the team to consider what evidence they would have, and then to determine how they will score themselves as a school or as a system and how this is fully implemented. Each item does have a scoring guide or a rubric, if you will, to help the team determine what does it mean to say a 0, a 1, or a 2. Here's an example of that scoring rubric for just one item. Here, the facilitator would ask or pose the statement, a school leadership team supports the implementation of the Tier 1 reading components of an MTSS framework. The respondents consider what evidence do we have to suggest that this statement is fully implemented or partially implemented or perhaps not at all. So you'll notice in the center of that chart there where it says 2 points. Looking at all the criteria, that would indicate, yes, a school leadership team does support the implementation of the Tier 1 reading components within an MTSS framework. The next column says suggested data sources. Here are all the places where a team can consider the evidence. Where can they get the evidence from to support, yes, this is fully in place, or no, it is not in place? And while the center of this chart lists the 2 points, what all is possible to think about in giving us this fully articulated component, you can see on the far right, to get a 1 point, it gives some criteria, or to get 0 points, it gives some criteria as well. Each statement that is going to be posed by the facilitator has a scoring rubric attached to it. Once the data has been collected, the team has the task of analyzing that data to make improvements. First, review the total score. What does the total score tell us about the overall tiered system? Then look for more specific areas of strength and need based on the tier, Tier 1 or those advanced tiers. Use individual item scores within a tier to identify specific actions that will lead to improved implementation of the reading component or components within an MTSS framework. From here, your team, with the help of the facilitator, will want to determine an action plan. What are the priority areas we, as a team, need to focus on? What specific goals are we setting for that 1 or 2 priority areas? What are our action steps to reach these goals? What is our ultimate deliverable? How will we know we have reached our goal or goals? It is through this process that the team has an opportunity to focus collaborative work efforts to improve systems. There is one additional aspect of the Reading-Tiered Fidelity Inventory tool we want to share with you: the R-TFI Administration Fidelity Checklist. This checklist will determine the fidelity of the utilization of the tool itself. By adding in this step, school leadership teams can evaluate their process of administering and completing the assessment. If there are any areas identified, the team has the chance to improve practices moving forward. Let's take a look at that fidelity checklist. In both versions of the R-TFI, the elementary and the secondary version, you will find this administration fidelity checklist. This is our opportunity to go through and identify, did we follow protocol? Yes, no, or just not applicable. So you'll notice within each step of the protocol system for how to administer and score the R-TFI, we have the opportunity to decide, did we do it with fidelity? Completing the assessment with fidelity will allow our leadership team to know that the scores and the responses they got are valid and reliable, and we can make good, informed decisions about our action planning moving forward to improve systems. So what is the next step? To move forward, first review the R-TFI tool that is most appropriate for your school team, elementary or secondary level. Next, identify and develop a team that consists of members who are knowledgeable about the MTSS systems within your setting, whether that be at the district or school level. Once you have that team, determine roles for the members. You will need that outside facilitator, patent, or the IU, group note taker, and respondents. As a school leadership team, administer or complete the Reading-Tiered Fidelity Inventory tool. Interpret the data by looking at that total score, then digging deeper into specific areas of strength and need. Based on that data interpretation, build an action plan with goals and deliverables to improve the MTSS framework at your district or school level. Thank you for joining us as we took a deep look at the Reading-Tiered Fidelity Inventory tool. The hope is that your school leadership team will take this information and new learning to enhance efforts in your school setting. We look forward to future opportunities in which Patent and your local IU can support the great work that is happening.